Good evening. Who helps you to find that check you got from your great auntie Dot that you lost 10 years ago, but then makes you spend it on a nice pair of shoes for us? It's the Thursday night crew. ASTV, as the cool kids call it, and the absolute masters of technical unwizardry, the Barry Potters of the technological world. We've got Trevor and Brian as always. Trevor, how are you?
Fantastic.
And for Alan when he joins us there, you're sitting out there as we said before we went on here on the golf course.
I don't even know how I have a signal out here out in the middle of the forest. It's a miracle of modern technology. I'm bucking the trend,
especially in this weather. Brian, how are you?
Doing fantastic also.
So we're going to keep it fairly basic tonight. We are going to talk about the game that happened today, Sheffield United and Liverpool at Anfield. We'll talk about the mentality of this team because the quality, it might be a bit lacking, but we can still count on those boys to win. And then the United game ahead to the weekend, especially given the hilarious collapse that happened today against Chelsea. It was the best comedy show I've seen in a long, long time. Alan says, hello, boys. So I hope he's buying us a drink with that line. That's a little bit too salacious, that comment there, Alan. But let's start with the game.
You didn't put the ellipses between the well, so
yeah, exactly.
I think it's less insidious.
I don't know. I've heard better. So let's talk about the game. It's it's a tail end of the season. It's the business end, as they say in British commentary. It was a dominant performance, but maybe not a clinical one, despite the scoreline, Trevor. We kind of looked like we were going to do one of those shoot ourselves in the foot kind of deals, but in the second half, the boys came up with the goods. So first of all, what are your impressions of that game? And second of all, and we'll have that question for Brian as well, did those subs in the second half make a huge difference?
Despite how head-scratching they were at first, because when that first batch of subs came on, you were going, oh, maybe it's something where they're just saving Mo for the weekend and such. But it turned out to not be the worst thing in the world, because it just having fresh bodies just ruin Sheffield United. And it's sometimes when you try to like overthink it and you go like, oh, well, we got to tactically shift to counter what they're doing. Sheffield United was just so tired that the fact that we put on people that weren't just absolutely ruined them. And they were kind of, after the Bradley own goal, they kind of just didn't have any answers. It was not necessarily surprising given where they are in the table, but for how we didn't take our opportunities in the first half outside of the Darwin going back to the back in the day, the old Ryan Babel / Andrea Dosenia Besiktas special into the goal. There was not much to really talk about. It was lots of missed opportunities, lots of times where we had just odd man things and just didn't do anything with them. In the end, I'm glad that it just was comfortable, but I think that this isn't something that we can like build off, other than the fact that it's just 3 points.
There you go. Brian, do you share that sentiment? Because on the Premier League panel show before, I think we went on air last night, we were talking about for Alan, who's an Arsenal supporter, about how at this point of the season, no matter how much pretty football you played in the other 30-odd games, right now, you would take any sort. If you had to crawl through a river of slurry, a river of sewage to get the 3 points, if you want to win a league or any trophy, this is what you have to do. We weren't uncomfortable by the looks of things, and highlights can be deceptive, but we also weren't our efficient best. So at this point, can we discount all performance and just talk about the wins when they come along as being just what they are? They're just wins, and that's all we need.
I mean, I kind of think you have to. I mean, because right now it's just about grinding results toward the end of the season. Everybody out there on the pitch right there has tired legs at the moment. I mean, the amount of matches that we put that the average player plays now between international cup matches, league in the league, they're bound to have injuries, bound to have tired legs, somewhat injuries. A lot of players out there are not completely 100%. You're probably got somewhere about 80%. I mean, with the amount of matches they're playing. So yeah, I mean, just getting those 3 points is all it really counts there at the moment. I mean, it's grinding results. Now, my kind of analysis of the match right there was those first couple of couple, I'd say 10, 15 minutes. We played the way we played every match it seems in the first 10, 15 minutes. We sit back and act like we really don't know what we're doing, and they attack us, and they almost scored twice. I mean, Keller had 2 very brilliant saves right there to stop that. I mean, point-blank saves to come to keep us in the match in the beginning part, before we had the Darwin Nunez tap in the box right there for the keeper, not really knowing what he was doing at the moment. But, I mean, I think that, again, it's 3 points. Now, the subs, I was happy to see Curtis Jones back. I think that was a very good thing. I was kind of sad that we didn't have Endo in there, and I think that our match changed a lot without having Endo controlling it. I don't think that Gravenberch right there is the same type of number 6 player that is. I mean, I think we've all had that conversation before about that, and I think that without having a proper 6 back there, I mean, it kind of sets our whole system up. The most interesting thing I saw that we did toward the end right there was the formation shift that we made. We went to a 4-4-2 from a 3-4-3. I mean, and that was interesting to see how we will react to that. I mean, and I think that we did very well. Gapco looked a little bit more interested right there playing in a 4-4-2, which I was kind of didn't really know that would be something that he would thrive at. I mean, because I never saw him play in a 4-4-2 formation. Alan answered Alan's question on that. I can't get Gravenberch. I think that I just don't know what system. Again, it goes back to the same thing we've always been talking about. Even talked about on Monday night with Gravenberch and Gapco. I mean, just the Dutch it's like a Dutch thing right now that's happening. It seems like these players just seem like they're kind of disinterested going through the motions, and a lot of times on the pitch. I mean, it's kind of like an instant gratification. Can I get into spaces? Can I get into spaces to move forward? I think that Gapco definitely came there and looked really a lot better in this match. I've seen him in the past things, but Gravenberch is kind of the same Gravenberch I've seen over the past couple of weeks. I really haven't seen any progression with him right now. I mean, again, we talked about that he needs a preseason, and maybe the next manager that comes through will find that right spot for him. But I right now, I mean, he kind of doesn't really fit in the side at the moment, in my opinion.
We have a reputation on this show, gentlemen, of picking on a certain player who we actually all like. I mean, we'll say this to our dying day, but he does cause us a great amount of frustration. But we saw, did we not, Trevor, the very, very best of the chaos that Darwin Nunez brings, because there aren't a lot of forwards in English football, if not European football at all, who consistently makes those threatening runs to the goalkeeper. And all season, you'll be sitting there saying, it's going to work out once, and it bloody well did tonight. And it looks like he's kung-fuing that ball or doing double dragon on that goalkeeper, for those of us who had a Commodore 64 in the 80s. But that's the kind of goal that it's just not a normal goal. And for Darwin Núñez, I think we said before, if it's a normal goal and it's a bread and butter goal, the lad's not going to score. But that was almost a perfect Darwin Núñez goal, as much as a curved in screamer from 40 yards is, wasn't it?
Yeah, because it's something that doesn't come easy. It's something that he had to work to make. He had to rush the goalkeeper, get his and I'm going to do an equally outdated video game reference. He went full Liu Kang. If you can see that, it's definitely a Liu Kang kick coming in, and it just bounced over, and he chased the ball in just in case there was going to be some sort of weird ball off the line type of crap. He chased it in before he went and did his celebration. He didn't just assume that it was going to go in. And my thing with, and we've said it a million times over with Núñez, the guy puts in work. Like he's never a guy that for all the times that we've given him a little bit of stick when he doesn't get a goal and he sits there and he just does the woe's me, and then the plays going the other way. That's something that is kind of just like in a vacuum. You get mad in the moment, and then you kind of just let it go. But we'll say it over the course of like a podcast, and of course people like will latch onto it. Oh, you hate Darwin Núñez because you don't think he puts in an effort. I'm like, no, just because you did the one thing one time doesn't mean that's his entire personality or character. It's just this one thing that I said this one time that he did, which was factual. I'm not trying to like drag him down or anything, but this is one of those things where it's just he does this constantly, and it was something that Bobby used to do. But my thing with Bobby, when we do these like rushes of the goalkeeper, he always gave me the impression that he wanted to just like run up and do like a frat boy sack tap on the keeper. Like he never had an intention of going and trying to do this. He just wanted to be like, yo, I'm here. Hey, what's up? What are you doing? I'm here. I'm just going to make you nervous. I'm not going to try to ever put the ball in the goal, but I'm just going to make you just completely forget about what you know as a professional, what you're trying to do in clearing a ball or taking a goal kick or anything like that. Darwin, I think, it just runs at them full speed because that's what he does. He is just an absolute bull in a china shop. And I think going forward, there's more of these in him because now these keepers are going to be kind of skittish of trying to do these like hoofed ball down the field. And they're just going to try to do their weird pass out the back things. And if everybody else is pressing accordingly, that's just going to lead to more opportunities.
Brian, first question is, as that ball bounced off Darwin Núñez and headed towards the goal and he chased it in, were you like me sitting there watching it going, don't kick it, do not kick it, you're going to miss?
Absolutely.
Yes.
But on the other hand, I mean, you kind of need, with the absence of Jota, we kind of need somebody who can sniff out the half chance, don't we? Because the rest of our goal scorers are kind of too constructive. Like Diaz wants to cut in, he wants to build the move and then and smash it in from a distance. Salah is almost kind of the same sometimes. Elliott is kind of the same. Szoboszlai is kind of the same. And as we will get to, McAllister is also the same. So it's good to have somebody other than Jota that can do a bit of the dirty work, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I'm trying to sort of think while we were talking about that about we're the last player that we've actually seen even in the league or even with Liverpool that rushed a keeper. That I can think of really, Vardy was like one of those type of players that always came and rushed in right there and created that type of pressure right there on a keeper. But Liverpool, it's been a long time since we had a player that actually did that. I mean, I can maybe think of maybe Fowler, maybe. I mean,
Suarez.
Suarez, yeah, that's what, yeah, Suarez. I mean, that'd be about the last one right there we did that. It doesn't seem like that's an English type of style
But
of play.
Suarez only did it to crappy keepers. He did.
Yeah.
Didn't really
He
do
did
Norwich.
it. What he did was he did it to the Norwich keeper. So
Yeah.
we saw that guy's probably on
Trauma.
permanent gardening leave from life.
But yeah, I mean, like you said right there, we talk about a lot right there about how like a lot of our forwards try to search around for this like this the perfect opportunity, the perfect pass, the perfect thing right there. I mean, we saw it this past weekend right there where we had this like always constantly seeking for that one exact moment that you could get that perfect pass and that perfect goal instead of just thinking about it and living on instinct. And I think that's some of the problems that we have. I think that sometimes that Nunez is too instinctive. I mean, to where he does this goes and just goes at it. It doesn't actually think through the process. I mean, so he's kind of like a polar opposite of like Slabozai or like Gapco or any of these players right there who have to are definitely Diaz, because I don't think Diaz is like always trying to find that first right type of pass when you cut inside. You don't see that with Nunez. Nunez is in your face. I mean, and that's something that you kind of have to have a happy medium in the side. I think that you have to have an option right there for people for back lines that can't handle that type of pressure, and I think that Nunez provides that for us. I mean, ultimately, right there, I mean, you can come across sides right there that can absorb passing and going back and forth, just by coming there doing zonal marking. But if you have somebody that's running at you and running directly at you, you're like, holy fuck, what is this guy? I mean, it kind of puts you back, and I think that Nunez is that player.
Trevor, let's go to the next one. Just because your name is appropriate for it. Alex McAllister there, he's winding up. Actually, that's probably just immediately after the kick. Even from this angle, with everybody in Sheffield United, their backlines back turned to us, you can see the beads of sweat and the look of fear and probably the smell of desperation from them from that picture alone. The boy can surely hit them. But that was as emphatic a goal as we probably needed at that point, didn't we? We already had the scrappy one, but to make sure Sheffield United knew we're here to win this game because we want to win the league and put you down into the championship as quickly as possible. That was the kind of goal you really want, wasn't it?
Yeah, and I think as we're going to talk about in terms of the mentality to just get 3 points, there is the theory of being able to deal that death blow, because Sheffield United for a decent amount of this game, especially after the Bradley own goal, really felt as if they could at least get a point from it. And that goal, especially in the time frame that it happened, with like 75th or 76th minute or something like that, completely the last 20 minutes, they didn't want to be there. They wanted to they immediately killed, and it's 2-1, but there was no way they were going to equalize. They were completely just disheartened. There was no shot. It was such a well hit ball that the defenders, if you look back at the thing, it's that they're all trying to like angle their way into it, and there was just no chance. It was by them before they could even put their hands behind their backs. It was hit so well. And McAllister, I think, is a guy that, because as you were saying before, we are in desperate need of poachers without Jota. And we have a lot of guys that like to take shots from distance, but not a lot of guys that do it with purpose. I think Szoboszlai, for all that he brings to the table, is a guy that likes to take shots to put it on his stat sheet that he did something.
It kills me.
But McAllister, I think if he gets one shot, he's going to make sure it's either going to break a bone in the goalie's hands or it's going to rip through the back of the net. he's a guy that, and much to my the detriment of my health sometimes, just like Diaz, will sit there and you're like, oh, first touch, he's just gonna take it, and then he just lays off a little pass, and he does this thing, or he'll just do the old Hendo, let me dribble in a circle and pass it back to the center back. He does that far too often. But when you can almost see it in his eyes sometimes, because when he takes that first touch and it's kind of just wonky, you know that he's not going to do anything with it. But when it comes down perfect, you know he's absolutely going to kick a piss missile. And I fucking love it. And this one was just, everything just fell perfectly in line, and there was no shot. The keeper and the defenders in between, it was as if they were on a tape delay. The ball was already in the net before like half of them moved, and it was just absolutely brilliant. And yeah, go. And I'm going to just go back to Brighton for a second, because I know that Matouche has this thing with the pregame where if you pick the right score and you have the goal scorers, you get a prize. But I picked the correct score and the man of the match, so I think I should just get like Venmo'd $1. I think that's a fair compromise, because I had McAllister and I had 2-1. So I'm just going to go back that. I'll take it in whatever currency that the Polish prince sees fit. If it
hair
ends up
gel,
being PayPal, yeah,
probably hair products.
Well, I just want to say
I
that
can't do hair products. This is all just matted down mess. I wear a hat for a fucking reason. There's just, yeah. But I'll take it in a weird crypto. It doesn't matter.
I just want to point out that there's no EPL fantasy show tonight, so I think he knew you were going to ask that question and faked illness with you. That's why he has the lorry, the sickness. Brian, let's just say we obviously there's a new manager coming in. Klopp is very wedded to the 4-3-3, but let's say we get a manager who is the absolute epitome of Saidu's dreams and wants to play a 4-2-3-1. As things stand right now, Endo and McAllister are the two in the double pivot, aren't they?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the only thing I could probably say right there is what to do with Trent. I mean, and that's going to be the big question right there. I've watched, just by analyzing, if Bradley's going there and being this player right there that we're kind of touting at the moment, what exactly are we going to do? Are we going to do with his position? I personally don't like Trent playing in the midfield. I mean, I think that a lot of people kind of feel the same way about it. I think that it kind of takes.
I'm -10. Yay!
I mean, but yeah, I think I'm all for 4-3-2-1. I mean, I think it's a great. I think really, honestly, a 5-3-2 to me is great. I mean, there's so many different things that you could do with the 5-3-2. I mean, where you could go with there, and I think that you see that we go back into a 5-3-2 with Klopp anyway, and sometimes. I mean, so I think that that we. I guess the question is, what does a certain manager who we're now highly linked to play with? And he plays with a modified 4-3-2-1 to a 5-3-2. So, and I think that may be what you're kind of hitting at right there in a way. And I think that we had those players that can play that positions, especially in the midfield. We have so many midfielders right now. I mean, we went from midfield deficit to midfield stacked except for a number 6. I mean, in a way, but with a double pivot right there, you've got the best of both worlds. And so I think that if we can come there and get this certain manager, I think he's already set up for a success at the moment. I mean, if we can keep a hold to the assets that we already currently have.
In terms of the that kind of idea of what to do with Trent. Just to digress slightly, Trevor, is there maybe a hope deep down in all of us that the next manager comes in and uses Trent as an actual fullback, and doesn't do the what you call it, the inverted fullback thing where he goes into the midfield, because it does expose Trent's defensive deficiencies as much as it highlights his attacking ability. Is a case that, you know, deep down we're all kind of hoping that Trent becomes a right back again, and that means we would have Bradley and Trent compete with each other for that spot properly as proper fullbacks. Or do you think that's something that's going to be continued with the next manager, that experiment?
Yeah, it's a definite question to be posited to who's coming in next, because if we're going to do something like a 5-3-2 with the wing backs and things like that, and kind of have a more staunch back line and kind of just let Robertson and Trent do their wind sprints up the side and not be as reliant on them to be out and out defenders, I think that is something that could be not the worst thing in the world. But I think, and you mentioned the whole inverted fullback really takes advantage of his passing, but it also just leaves him open for everything that anybody both in the Liverpool fandom camp and outside of it can just bring him down for. Because a lot of the times it's yes, I get that it's the system putting him in spots where he's not going to be able to get back a lot of times. And I completely understand that. But it also gets to a point where, and I think Timushin really just puts this out there a lot, is I think a lot of it's effort. And I think sometimes when you put a guy in enough spots where he's out of position, that there's not going to be that effort every time to get back in. So there will be those times where there's a play happening and he never shows up into the camera frame. And you're going, yeah, I get that you were putting a cross in and then things went the other way. But the fact that, like, even Mo, the guy who never gets back, is like in the camera frame. Yeah, he's not in the play, but he's at least, you can see him in the wide shot, and Trent is not there. It happens more often than it should. I think if you just save him from himself and just simplify his role, and you kind of put him out wide and you let him do his thing, he can still get all the passes that make him so valuable, all those crosses and all those things. But you also simplify his defensive role so he's not as exposed and he's not as counted on to just do so much. I think it's going to be beneficial for him. I think it's going to be beneficial for whoever ends, if you do play that system, whoever's the right-sided center back of that. No, it's just, I don't see where there's a detriment to it in the end.
Before we move on to the next thing, Alan says that the idea of the number 6 will be soonest, but today that'd be someone like Macka. Time has evolved. It has evolved, indeed, Alan, but I'm pretty sure Liverpool were not putting me as the number 6. If it has evolved, then everybody's losing their houses on bets. So appreciate the compliment. I always want to be compared to Graham Souness, but it's definitely not me. Alexis McAllister, on the other hand, like his dad, Gary. There's a perfectly acceptable job in there. But what we want to move on to now, Brian, is the next goal. There he is in all his lazy glory. You know, if we get a bad reputation and an undeserved one for what we say about Darwin Núñez, I will not apologise for calling Gakpo lazy. because he has become one of the least efforted players that we have in a system that is designed purely around work rate almost. But having said that, it was nice to see him get a goal, and it was nice to see him celebrate it the way he did. So, Brian, my question to you is, have we read this wrong? Is he not just a lazy bugger? Or is he just a lazy bugger, rather, or has he maybe just not felt a part of it all yet? And something like those goals will help him, to feel the love of the fans, so to speak.
I'm kind of likely to go with the same thing that Galley and Bick were kind of saying on a lot of our Mondays, talking about Gapco. When you put a player in so many positions, after a while, they don't really know what position they're supposed to be playing. We have put Gapco in about 6 different positions, it seems like, in this side right now. He's been on the right, he's been on the left, he's been in the middle, he's been at attacking midfield, he's been on the left side of the midfield, the right side of the midfield. I mean, after a while, you don't know where you're coming or going. I mean, I know it's great to have a utility player right there who you can do some of this stuff with, but if the player can't actually go and define what his exact role is in the side, what do you expect out of him? I mean, it's kind of hard. I mean, it's really, really hard for you to expect him to do it. And after a while, it's like, okay, I signed up here to be this certain type of player. But I mean, and what do you do? What do you do as a player right there when you're saying, hey, I need you to play on the left side, when that's not where you normally play at? So you have to reinvent yourself in your head and say, okay, how do I go out there and make my approaches right there if I'm here on this side versus playing up the middle right there when versus in the middle, But again, yeah, I mean, and what Timu's saying right there also, I agree totally right there. That back half, when he got subbed on, he didn't seem like he was making an effort against Brighton, but again, it all goes down to mentality too, right there. Again, if you are sitting there playing so many different roles and you don't exactly know what your role is, after a while that affects a player's mentality. I mean, plus you came here to go there to compete, but what position are you competing for? I mean, if you get what I'm kind of saying.
So here is my rebuttal to the idea that number one, that he is lost because of the number of positions he plays in, and even a little bit towards Serzi's point there that he might be at a low ebb, because there's nothing easier to do than physical effort, as far as I'm concerned. Like, you don't need to think about it; you just go and do it. So even at your lowest ebb, if you want to be a part of a team, you can still do the defensive work, because the defensive work is positioning and movement. And I think that's what Timuchin is talking about there. Is for the Brighton game, he just came in and jogged. Like, it wasn't energy, unless he did the hardest warm up in the world 2 minutes before he came on. There was no reason why he worked as little as he did.
He ran up and down every stair in that stadium.
Every step. That was with Eye of the Tiger, or the Rocky theme tune in his ear pods, or whatever they're called. But that's my rebuttal to that, Trevor. Is it not the case that even if you're having a bad time, we've seen it with so many players before, maybe with lesser talent than Gakpo, that they're having a bad time, they still put the grind in, and eventually it turns around on the talent side. So they get their mojo back with the ball, say, they figure out their cohesion with the team. But all along, they have been doing the work, and so they get appreciated. So is it a case of with Gakpo that he is at such a mental low ebb that he can't even muster that kind of effort? Or is he picking and choosing which games he wants to put the work into?
He's one of those, I can't really pinpoint what is his deal. Because in all sports, there's times where people are like in slumps, and you just need that one thing. Where, like, if a guy can't make a shot in basketball, or a guy can't get a hit in baseball, like, you just need those one things where, you like drop a bunt and you beat out a single, or you just hit that one shot that bounces around the rim 9 times and goes in. Those come with just continuing to put effort in on both sides and like getting your hacks in, getting your shots in. A lot of times with Gakpo, and even before he scored the header today, you see a lot of times where he seems the main adjective I see with him a lot of time is just disinterested. There's times where like even if we're winning or we're in a position where you don't need to be going like full throttle the entire time, he just seems to be a guy that is just walking around. There doesn't seem to be any urgency. There doesn't seem to be anything at all. And I that's something that is disconcerting, because the best way to like get out of like a funk like that is just to get anything. And I'm hoping that this goal today, in a game that was already pretty much done and dusted by that point — we talked about it with the McAllister goal, kind of just killing Sheffield United's just absolute desire to go get anything. Getting that goal in a game that was pretty much all set and doing it in a very striker-esque go get your goal fashion, I'm hoping this just puts a lot of this stuff to bed, because there were so many times where it was just he had an opportunity just set on a plate for him and he would kick it over the bar, or he would take 7 touches and then fall over and scream for a penalty. Today, that he was able to get that opportunity and, as Sir Z was saying, not overthink it, just react and just put it beautifully on frame. I really want Gakpo to be that guy that breaks the mold of jack of all trades, master of none. I want him to be able to kind of be that utility player, but not have to be put in so many roles where it diminishes how good of a player he can be.
Brian, I just want to bring the Sir Z thing back up, because Trevor talked about the attacking side of things, but Sir Z says one of he's in the wrong position when defending a counter attack. Now, I've probably coached more young players than I would care mentally to have to deal with, because kids are morons and annoying ones at that. No, but one thing about grassroots players is you will get that question of where should I be when I'm defending, and the answer is always, if you're running back towards the middle of your own goal, you're probably in the right position at some point, because the ball always has to be funneled within an 8-yard zone around about the goal. So to me, am I in the wrong platform here? But to me, if Gakpo is running straight back to his own goal at high speed, he looks like he's defending. But if he's only jogging, it really doesn't matter about his position, because he's not going to be anywhere near where he needs to be at that pace. So if we flip a coin here, which side are you leaning on it? That is it a case that he just doesn't know where to be defensively and he's overthinking it? Given that he's a professional player, he's not a grassroots player. Or am I right in being a little bit critical that he just needs to run back, literally run towards the penalty spot, and he's going to be in the right position somewhere?
I mean, maybe it's a little bit of both on that right there. I mean, again, but it also does fall back onto, I mean, ultimately,
you're such a politician, Brian. You're such a politician.
Because you think about right there,
little bit of column A, little bit of column B.
Yeah. But yeah, you think about. I mean, yeah, you could be critical about him, but the jogging thing from at the Brighton match, definitely right there. That was a very critical thing with it. But again, if you're overthinking and not figure out where you're going, sometimes right there you can't. If you just run in a certain spot, you're in the back of your head saying, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing doing this? Am I doing that? Am I supposed to go over here and cover this side? I mean, it creates confusion right there. So a little bit of both right there. I mean, yeah, I mean it's very critical on our part to watch this player from our perspective right there and see what he's doing. But to actually try to figure out what in his perspective, what he's thinking about he should be doing, could be a totally different animal. I mean, with him. I mean, so I mean, I have to say right there that I think that he's like we're talking here, he's lacking a lot of confidence at the moment right there about himself. Gravenberg, the same thing with all the comments mentioned about him. Same thing. Both these players are totally lacking in that. On that Allen's conversation right there, right there about Gravenberg, like I said before a couple months ago, reminds me of Paul Pogba. He's the same type of player right there. I don't see any difference in him right there. I mean, it's a perception to base thing right there. Everybody, all of us right there said Pogba was lazy, was one of the laziest footballers we've seen right there come across those United sides. I mean, we probably a lot of the same people say the same thing about Gravenberg right there. But again, it goes back to grassroots of where they started off with. Yes, the professionals right there, but also goes to coaching and putting the players in the right spots and the right frame of mind. I mean, so you have to actually look at Pep too, about where Pep Winters is actually going there talking to them about too, about positioning, about doing these things, of when he's on the training ground. I mean, okay, if you are getting pulled into multiple different positions, you lose track about where exactly you should be in that position, in the position you're called for sometimes. That's just my take on it.
So let's switch it up a little bit, Brian, before we move on to the game at the weekend. Mentality-wise, we've spoken about the mentality monsters being back. They were so sorely lacking and disappeared last season, but we got the fresh faces in. We expected a transition year, but it's working out quite well for us. Do you think, Trevor, that despite the fact that we kind of make it look more difficult than it sometimes is against some of the teams, do you think that maybe the cup win has actually galvanized the team to understand that they can get through anything? They will lose games here or there, but ultimately, if they just keep doing what the plan is and what they train for, the results seem to just come to us, don't they?
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways, this season has put for both the players and the fan base a lack of panic. I think there's been times, especially in the past, where if we lost like 2 games in a row or had like 2 bad performances, everybody, and well, I think some of us in the Discord, we seen after the Arsenal game, there was just the people just cannonballing off the ship. There's a lot of times where, and we've talked about this across all of our shows, is the recent success of the top teams in the Premier League is not normal. Losing like 1 game a year is not sustainable. There's going to be runs where there's just, you have to grind out 1-0 wins, and not everything's going to be pretty. Playing FIFA on easy 5-0 wins. There's going to be games like today where you have to just beat a team that is trying to survive and is going to just throw every single ugly thing that they can at you. And you have to persevere. And if you give up just really fluky own goal, you can't let that spiral. And this year has been one of those years where I don't think, despite any setbacks, there's been a significant spiral at all. And that's put us in the position that we're in, because being able to, there could have been something where getting knocked out in the way that they did against United in the FA Cup could have just led to an absolute just downhill slide in the league. But it hasn't. That The City game was one that probably could have won given different circumstances. And the Brighton and Sheffield United games, there's games that in past years, going down in 2 minutes to Brighton would have scared the crap out of me, that we would have gotten 14 shots on goal and not scored any of them. But now it's something where I don't panic anymore. And I don't think the players panic either. And that, I think, is it's a level of calmness that I think permeates throughout everything. Whereas there's not finger pointing, that just everybody is kind of just recognizing what they need to do to get to the finish line. And the ultimate finish line this year, know how many sad faces that we're going to get with this being Jurgen's end. This team, I think, is poised to make it the best possible just goodbye for him as possible.
Brian, Virgil van Dijk in an interview alluded pretty much to that, that the players are basically, especially the ones that have been with him the longest, are basically trying to make this the best season they can. And I'm sure, and we'll get to talk a bit more about this after you answer, but I'm sure they'll want to put things right against United after the FA Cup game. But if we look at the environment that they're in and all the distractions that are around them, number one, a newly cobbled together team after the league winning and Champions League winning team started to disassemble through age, and then Klopp leaving, and then also is it Amazon or Apple, whichever one of those streaming things are doing that documentary about Liverpool, probably an added distraction as well. Sometimes there is unity in adversity. So have we kind of hit the perfect storm of things that are going to help us galvanize together as a unit and pull everybody through to the end of this season, especially for Klopp, that may put us in danger of falling apart next season when there's a new manager who can't keep a handle on it?
Macka, you're seconding what I've said for past week or so, in the comments, on the Friday morning show, and also on the last Monday show. My biggest fear right there is that all the amount of effort and things that we put into giving Jurgen the perfect goodbye gift and all that, we will mentally go there and kill our side. I just have a fear of that. I think that energy that you have to put into to get these.
I think Brian's
got
out
for a minute.
Yeah, Brian's got the solar eclipse 3 days earlier than the rest of us. So we'll get Brian back now in a second, hopefully. But I want to point this out. We're going to morph this topic into this.
Am I back yet?
Your voice is, but you're picking your nose on the picture. Finish your thought out, Brian, and then we'll get onto the Man United game.
Oh, all right.
That solar eclipse, I'm telling you. So let's do this, Trevor. We'll talk about.
Never trust the sun.
Never trust the sun. That's true for us Liverpool fans.
Yeah.
No, not true.
It was an all.
Yeah, it was very good. It was all encompassing that. So here's what I want to say. In terms of mentality and galvanizing and the circus that surrounds the Liverpool team, we shuffled to a hopeless draw against United, where we probably should have beat them by several. We probably should have beat them in the cup easily. We spoiled several overload chances that you wouldn't allow schoolboys and schoolgirls playing soccer to waste those. Here's my opinion. If we beat United on Sunday, I don't think we're going to lose again for the rest of the season. However, should we lose to them? Brian's back. Should we lose to United on Sunday? My feeling is that that's the end of it for the league. I don't think we'll mentally recover from that. Am I way off base on that? Can we, points wise, we can't afford to lose to them, but mentality wise, if we happen to not get the full 3 points, is it going to damage the mentality of the team?
I think how the two teams have exited that game speaks volumes, because we pissed away a game in extra time. That was something that completely out of character. Whereas since then, United has pissed away 2 games in extra time, which is incredibly in character. So I think for this game, we're going to be coming in just with a vengeance. And I truly think that's why some of the substitutions that were made today were made to kind of keep guys fresh, despite how head-scratching they were in terms of just fitting the lineup together as they came about. That's neither here nor there. End up in a win, so that's fine. I don't particularly agree that if we lose, it's title challenge over, because I think that both Arsenal and City have a couple of potential banana skins left in their schedules, especially with like Spurs being a gigantic bogey team for City and Arsenal just being the perennial bottle jobs that they are. But I think it will do something to our mentality if you lose twice to United in the matter of a month. That's just going to be just brutal. So I want to say that it's not the end all be all, but I'm kind of sitting on the fence of it really could just shape our season if we don't get 3 points this weekend.
Brian, United lost today in hilarious fashion. Came down from, I think it was 2-0 down to make it 2-2. Got that third goal, and then looked like they were coasting to a win. And the crestfallen Chelsea fans and Pochettino with a face like he was sucking 10 lemons, apparently, according to the radio. But Cole Palmer comes up trumps with a hat-trick, a penalty, and then a goal. When we lose a game like that, we're all, I think, to a person, fairly confident that the next team is going to suffer that we play. But you don't get that feeling with United, do you? Even if they're at Old Trafford, they lost hilariously today. And if the same kind of situation happens, maybe they do a Sheffield United, maybe they or Brighton, they score early, and then we bring 2-3 goals back on them before the 60th minute. That's going to get into their heads, isn't it?
They look shell-shocked at that last 111th minute. They looked very shell-shocked, like they didn't know what happened to them. And just a second, man, Cole Palmer, what a player! I don't even know why City decided to go through, unless they want to try to make their books look better right there for all their financial irregularities that they really have. But I mean, he's a doozy of a player to play against. I mean, so I've got nothing but respect for him as a player. And it must have really crushed him right there to give that kind of defeat to his boyhood club also, which even makes it even happier right there to see that kind of shit happen right there. Because whenever they lose and they lose that fashion, it's great. The guy I work with is a big United fan. He basically said right there, "I'm fucking done." That's what he texted me with. I was like, what better thing to see right there at the end of a match right there? I'm done. Okay, great. So I think that on the question you asked Trevor, I think if we don't beat them on Sunday, I think that it will be pretty drastic for us. I really do think that it will cause problems. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of points drop between Arsenal and City. but I think that we have blood in the water with this United side, and if you don't take advantage of that right there, I mean, you don't deserve to come up there and win championships. So there, I mean, of course, with rivalries right there, you never know what happens. But with what I saw out there, I mean, yeah, they fought hard, but there's like really nothing, and they have like say Martinez is out, they have injuries that are happening right there. They have every opportunity to go there, just go through there and just crack them a good one right there, and they deserve it as always. I want to sort of follow up my question before I blanked out right there about you said earlier right there. I do fear mentality, mental wise, about what we're doing to give Klopp a good send off. I'm afraid of it. I hope that it's not going to be detrimental to the next manager who comes in here, because when you give, I know that working in certain places, if you give your all to your boss and to your gaffer right there, that he's about to leave, you want to have him lead in good terms, and and have all the praise and stuff like that. When next boss comes, you're drained. You're completely drained, and you just don't know what to do. And this guy's going to come in with a brand new system, a brand new way of doing things. You've already exerted everything out for what you're doing here. Where do you start? I mean, it's good. Some of these older players who've been here a long time, this may be the end of the road for them to potentially. I mean, I said it before. I think we're going to have somebody that a lot of people, a fan favorite out of this group, is probably not going to be here next year. Maybe one or two, maybe two of them are going to be here next year, because of the next new gaffer is going to decide what he thinks is best, and some of these guys aren't going to be on that list.
Trevor, two things. Number one, tell me how you think we're going to line up, especially given the subs for tonight and players coming back from injury as they trickle back in. And then, what is your score prediction?
I think the biggest things going into this weekend is Curtis going to get a start, which I think is kind of in the cards. If you want to like just really rip the Band-Aid off and get him back in there, because I think we've kind of kid-gloved way too many of these guys coming back. And I think Curtis is a guy that I think just needs to go out there and play. Just getting these 15, 20-minute spurts, I don't think is going to help him, because he's a guy that really needs to work into the game from the start, and he just builds confidence over time. So just getting a substitute role isn't really conducive to getting the best out of him. And as much as we've kind of sung his praises for, and speaking of versatility with Gakpo is a guy that you don't know where he's going to play week to week. Joe Gomez is a guy that I think is absolutely burnt out right now. I don't think you can start Gomez against United. Today, he just looked like two steps behind everything. And I don't want it to be something where he is left to be a scapegoat for no reason. I really just, those are the two things. Get Gomez out of the lineup and get Jones in, and just kind of leave everything else the way it is. I don't see any other changes really needed.
Brian, your lineup prediction, and then also your score prediction, which Trevor, I think, forgot to give us.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna go to Muchin special 3-1.
3-1. So Brian, very good. I know jokes. Brian, what is your lineup prediction? Who do you think? Is there going to be any surprises at all? And then what is your score prediction?
I'm going to second what Sir Z said right there, because I think that's pretty much where I'm at right there. But I do agree with what Alan said in the comments right there. I think that we are running the legs off of Connor Bradley at the moment. I think that we are really overplaying him. But in the same instance right there, what Trevor feed off of Trevor, I don't think we need to go out there and play Gomez right now. I think that I watched Gomez on against Brighton, and he was about 2 steps at Brighton. And today he was even more steps behind. I think that we're burning Gomez out also at the same time. I mean, we're just going to do what we have to do to get by. But I think that, that we definitely need to go out there and I don't want to overplay Connor Bradley. He's a younger kid, but I think that we are in a position where we can't not play him until Trent gets healthy again. And so we're going to probably want to play him until at least until we go there and play Atalanta. I mean, because I believe that Trent should be possibly available for Atalanta, I hope. And then, at least play him for the beginning part and put Trent in there so to finish off that match with a good 30 minutes. I think that we're gonna. I'm kind of gonna go with Trevor. I think we have a Tamusha special in our hands. I think that we're gonna have a shitty ass Rashford or Garnacho goal that we're all gonna be pissed off about right there. But I think that in the long run, right there, I think that we are gonna be we're a more powerful side than they are, and I think that we're gonna see different from what we saw with them because we're not playing kids against this side. We're playing actually the real squad. There's no Dan's coming in. There's no Bobby Clark coming in. That's not happening with us right now. We are almost at full strength at the moment, and so I think that we are definitely a lot more powerful than United. I think that we're going to take that, but we'll take the win.
To answer Alan's question, no.
Here's my prediction. I'm going to counterbalance everybody. I'm going to say we're going to lose 2-1. And if I am wrong, next Thursday's show, I will eat an entire dozen donuts before the halfway point. So before 8:30 Eastern time. Yeah, 8:30 Eastern time. If I'm wrong, if I'm right, if we do lose, Anan has to eat the donut. No, I'm only kidding. We still have to get Anan on the show before the end of the season.
Anan's going to eat donuts no matter what.
He's eating donuts no matter what. But
Thiago has sealed his fate.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and double jinx us. I think it's possible we could lose this 2-1, and if I'm wrong, I eat the donuts. I will gladly eat every single bite of carbohydrate and sugar and dough based.
If you need to dole out a couple, I'll take some to just keep that reverse jinx juju in play.
Yep, and I will come there and bring donuts here if that happens too right there. So we'll all group suffer through this right there. Kind of like watching like Private Pile right there, and right there we all gotta pay for it.
I want a dozen donuts, Alan. That's what I want. I want to be wrong so that I can get to eat a dozen donuts and get 3 points from United. I mean, it's win-win for me here. I think it's donut baiting. So that's what it is. It's donut baiting. So I'm counterbalancing us because there's going to be a lot of positivity about this, and I was suckered into it in the last 2 games. So a possible 2-1 loss for Liverpool from me. Bring on the donuts. And if I happen to be wrong, very wrong, and there's another 4, 5, 6, or 7-0 type one, 2 dozen donuts in the hour. And that would be my last appearance on any podcast ever. as I go into a lifelong diabetic coma.
The memorial ASTV will be the
tomorrow. ASTV, yeah. The new American Scouser logo will just be a picture of me and the last donut dribbling down the out. But with that said, you're not going to know if we're going to do that if you don't follow us on the YouTube. Follow us on the Facebook.
What a segue!
Instagram. That was a great segue. Follow us on the Instagram and X, formerly known as Twitter, and of course our Patreon, because we have that now as well. So Z said he'll just buy me donuts, but that's not as fun. That is not as fun. And Dan said, is there any wind in your neighborhood? There will be after I eat the donuts. I'll go to Rhode Island. There'll be plenty of wind.
One state
plenty
away.
Of it.
We already got gale force warnings. So it's just gonna add to the
you'll be getting hurricanes now when I'm finished with you. Just remains to be said, we got the coffee, morning coffee show tomorrow, or tea if you drink it, with Reckless Roasters Coffee and sponsors. And then on Sunday, I'm pretty sure we're going to have a pre and a post match, so make sure you're keeping an eye out for that. And then maybe we'll do a nice little watch along on Saturday if there's any games worth watching. But for the rest of us and my poor blood sugar, and as I said, double fingers crossed that I'm double jinxing us, and then we're going to actually have a nice win. But we'll see. We'll see how much profit Dunkin' Donuts will get off me next week by the end of Sunday. So for Trevor, just to say thank you for joining us again, and Brian, thank you for joining us again. As always, it's Thursday night. It's been a moment on that bombshell, as Alan Partridge would say. Let's close out with the 70s power music, or maybe taps. It might have to be taps. By the time I'm finished with those donuts next week.
Oh man,
we'll have to get that set
more
up.
to taps would be kind of weird.
That's right. It'd be funky though. Peace out, everybody. We'll talk to you over the weekend.